Heat up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Plus Platoon. We're a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We'll look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I'm going to bring in Kate. Kate, good to see you this evening.
Good to see you too, Derek. How you feeling? You doing all right?
2 weeks left of the school year,
so close.
About as good as I can be.
You're so close.
What were you throwing at me? I mean,
I was throwing a piece of paper into the trash can. You're welcome.
Yeah, next we've got Peter. Pete, glad to have you with us.
All right, I'll throw this at Kate. Here you go, Kate. All right, good catch.
Yes, folks, it's going to be one of those evenings.
I'm doing well. I love talking about the Muppets anytime we can. So,
and last but certainly not least is Steve. Steve,
hey everyone.
Hey guys, if you have not already, please like, subscribe, share. We are Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Plus Platoon. Subscribe. You'll know what's going on. You'll know what we're watching, and you'll know when new shows come out. So this week we are diving back into the vault to look at the original Muppet movie from 1979. I will admit I was not quite alive yet when this came out, so I definitely did not see this in a theater.
Not quite alive.
What?
He was only like a little bit alive.
I was only mostly not alive. Oh wait, wrong movie. Sorry. But guys, Muppet Movie, it's a classic. It's Kermit wanting to go to Hollywood after meeting Dom DeLuise in a swamp, which we're going to talk about all the great cameos later. And runs into Fozzie, and they head towards Hollywood, and it's all their adventures. They meet Miss Piggy, they pick up Gonzo, they meet the Electric Mayhem, eventually get there and get their rich and fame, and he's avoiding this frog leg empire Colonel Sanders type dude, and it's the showdown with that, and then of course there's the big happy ending at the end. So Pete, Muppets are your baby. What created a rainbow connection in this movie?
Muppet Babies? I don't know. I was never into Muppet Babies, but
no,
I grew up. I definitely grew up with the Muppets. I don't think I saw this in the theaters, though. I was indeed alive for this movie but I don't remember if I saw it in theaters. But yeah. What happened to Kate?
She'll be right back.
Okay. I think it is. Muppets have always been inspired by vaudeville, and this to me was a very vaudevillian movie.
Yes.
A lot of really kind of corny jokes, which totally works.
Kind of corny.
Yeah, okay, very corny jokes. A lot of vaudevillian cameos and those type of things. I got a real kick out of it. I've rewatched this a few times over the years. And so I did get a good kick out of it. I find it's very amusing. There's not a ton of really laugh out loud moments in it per se, but there's a lot of chuckles. You get a lot of chuckles from it. The songs are wonderful. You can't go wrong with Rainbow Connection, but Moving Right Along is a great song. Gonzo's I would go back there someday is very, I don't know. It's a very emotional song, and there's some other good songs in it as well. I like the Magic Store song at the end as well. So I just find this a very charming, fun family movie. What do you think, Steve?
I loved all sort of the wordplay and the puns. I agree with you. Nothing really big laughs, but just those chuckles. Like if you're following along, some of the running gags had me just laughing out loud. The songs, definitely a musical, very catchy. How quickly hearing them again, you quickly know the tune. I love like moving right along. Found that great catchy. And then all the cameos, I growing up in the 70s and the 80s, like recognizing the people who they are was just like a great like flashback. Like, oh, that was so and so. This was so and so. So really enjoyed it. And then just now, since we watched the prop culture one with the Muppet movies and knowing how they pulled off some of the facts was really fascinating to see it on the screen.
Yep.
What about you, Derek?
Thinking back, I did not ever remember watching this all the way through, which, as big of a Muppet fan as I was, having watched it again this week, I had watched it all the way through before. It was just, it had been a long time since I watched it, and it had been too long since I had watched it. Guys, I love the Muppets. I love the older Muppets. Modern Muppets, but some of the older Muppets, this was very reminiscent. This was filmed during the time they were also doing the Muppet Show. So all those, the one-liners, and the only thing they missed with the running gag is sometimes they would literally have someone running in, do the gag, and run out. So,
yeah.
But, that could also just be a myth.
Myth.
Yep.
Yes. Guys, it was that kind of show. This is not a deep thinking show at all. This is a show, if you don't want to think and you don't want to be bothered with plot for an hour and a half, this is your movie. Okay? Because the plot is almost secondary. The plot with him and Doc Hopper, who cares? So, did set up a couple great cameos on that plot, but again, we will get there here in just a little bit. Kate, what worked on this for you?
So this movie was made almost 10 years, right under 10 years before I was born. And this movie absolutely holds up. It is so funny. I don't know what it is about the Muppets, but they are timeless. And I love that. I own all of the DVDs of the Muppet Show.
Which is available to stream on Disney Plus.
Yes.
It is. I went into this, I thought I had seen all the Muppet movies. But then when we were like, we're going to watch the original Muppets, I thought, oh, okay. And then I started watching, and I was like, I have not seen this. But I've seen like Muppet Treasure Island, Muppet Goes to Space, Muppets Take Manhattan, Muppet Christmas Carol. This movie, so when I realized I hadn't seen it and that it was made in 1979, I was like, oh no, are we in for, am I going to be uncomfortable? Like, are they going to make jokes that are not funny, that are inappropriate?
But it's a Muppet.
Y'all, there was one specific joke, and I don't particularly know why this one made me laugh harder than any of the others, but it's when they're in the car and they've just picked up Gonzo, and Fozzie is driving, and he goes, "We picked up a weirdo," and I literally, y'all, I spit out my water that I was drinking, and I belly laughed. Just the way that they animated it, and just it coming from Fozzie, who's like the weirdo. Like,
No, that's what Gonzo is he is a weirdo.
And I love it. And I love it. And it just, that one, like, Derek, you nailed it. That one liner of like, "We picked up a weirdo." Like, I laughed so hard. And the music, I didn't realize that this is where Rainbow Connection originated.
Yep.
I mean, you hear Rainbow Connection, everybody knows Rainbow Connection, right? Everyone knows that song, but I didn't realize this is what it's from. So to like see that, like, oh, this is the origin of it. Oh, this is not what I would have expected. And then, okay, and Derek, please don't get mad at me. Please don't drop me down. Please don't drop me down. I didn't know who Dom DeLuise was. The only reason that I knew, you're going to get mad at me, but the only reason I knew the name Dom DeLuise is because in the 1994 Cinema Classic Sleepless in Seattle, at the very end of the movie, fiance is like, I'd like a bottle of Dom DeLuise. And he's like, what? And Meg Ryan goes, he means Dom Perignon. I never knew that. So when I looked up, because there were so many cameos, and I wanted to know exactly who all these people were. And I saw the name Dom DeLuise, and I was like, oh my God, I'd like a bottle of Dom DeLuise, please. He means Dom Perignon. So please don't hate me. Please don't cancel me. But I loved. And the other thing is, and this is the last thing I'll say because I know I'm rambling, but it had so many good one-liners. It had me rolling laughter. And then it had me bawling when Gonzo sings that song that I can't remember the title of now.
I hope to go back them someday. Yeah.
And I believe I texted our group chat and was like, how dare you, Gonzo, making me feel all these emotions right now. So
yeah. What a great, I mean, the movie's full of great songs, and Rainbow Connection is obviously the famous one, but that song is so like emotionally, like I think it touches everyone emotionally that sees the movie. So as an adult,
so good.
Yeah. Okay, now it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Steve, what about this should have been heckled by Statler and Waldorf?
The plot. Like you said, there's not much of a plot going on. It's really all about the cameos and how those cameos interact with the Muppets and the one-liners. Not much of a plot, but it's a kids movie. So if you think of it in terms of seeing it through a kid's eye, it works there. I think nowadays some of the cameos are not as weak because people are going probably, who's that? I don't recognize that person.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
But we're all old, so.
Well, they're all old, but it's really the plot. The music's awesome. The cameos, if you knew who they are, those one-liners all work. The thing they could heckle the most is the lack of a decent plot.
Okay. That's fair. That's a fair argument.
Yeah.
For me, not a lot didn't work about this. The one thing that I remember going, ugh, really? I'm sorry, Steve Martin has so many characters. Why did he have to do the jerk? Why did he have to do that Steve Martin character with his excuse me? I mean, he has several other characters he could have done. Why do you have to do that as his cameo?
He was the only one I felt like pulled it out of the movie. Like everybody else played their cameos very straight-laced, and he chose to ham it up
too hard.
Right. Yeah.
Which, to ham it up too much next to Miss Piggy is kind of saying something. Here to it. Yay. And speaking of ham hocks, Piggy's song could have gone away.
Yeah,
the Piggy romantic song could have gone away because it was completely forgettable and too long. So those are my two big criticisms is less pig. You know, if I want that much pig, I'll put it on my smoker and cover it in barbecue sauce. So okay. Kate, what didn't work for you?
Uh-oh.
Other than
She's
your
muted.
What didn't work for you?
Sorry. I didn't have a lot that didn't work for me. It's because I take the Muppet movies, I take them very tongue-in-cheek. I take them kind of at face value. And I mean, Steve, you nailed it. Of the plot line was kind of meh, but aren't all the Muppet plot lines kind of meh? Like that we don't watch them. If I had to give a negative, it would probably be that. But and I think, Steve, I think you'll agree with me on this, that like you don't watch the Muppets for the plot line, you watch them for the one-liners. You watch them for some of the songs, but even the songs, like you watch them to watch Fozzie make a terrible joke and have it kind of go wah 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 and have him go waka waka. Like you watch them to see Kermit and Piggy's dynamic. You watch them to see Gonzo do something insane. You don't watch them for the plot like you might watch a Marvel movie for. So I don't have a lot negative to say. I get See, and this is just a timing thing. I didn't know all of the cameos. I didn't know who they were. But that's not the movie's fault. That's because it was made in 79 and I was born in 88.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's me kind of going, oh man, I bet this person was really good. Like, of course I know who Steve Martin, I know Bob Hope, but like, yeah. So I don't have a lot negative to say. What do you think, Pete?
I guess the only thing I would say is, like, you know, I mentioned there was a lot of chuckles in it, but there wasn't a lot of like laugh out loud moments. And not that the Muppets are big on that, but like I didn't find it like hilarious. Like I wasn't like laughing the whole time.
Oh, weirdo.
I enjoyed it, and it was good, and it was solid, but there wasn't really like strong belly laughs in it per se for a comedy. Again, it is what it is. It's the Muppets. It's you know, a lot of corny jokes. And so, you know, for the Muppets, I thought it was strong, but like it wasn't necessarily hitting on all cylinders at every moment, I guess, and that it wasn't like making me laugh out loud at any point. But solid movie for sure. So I don't have much to complain about this movie. I think it's a great family movie. It's like a really great movie that you can watch with your kids, whether they're 5 or even like, you know, 11, 12 years old, maybe not teenagers so much, but I think it's really a movie that works and like you can enjoy it as an adult, but it's not really gonna like bust your gut or anything. So
yeah, that's fair. I will say, as you guys have mentioned, Fozzie, his appearance in the comedy club annoyed me because he didn't tell the jokes. Fozzie was known, comes out on stage, does one waka waka, and then tells the jokes. This was like 2 minutes of solid just waka wakas. So,
yeah, he didn't really get any jokes in. Which,
he didn't really get any jokes in. So,
Well, he tried to joke.
that was what?
He tried to joke, but the sailor wasn't happy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah.
But that was a wasted moment for me. So, okay, we have talked about them. They've been so great. If doesn't quite as have many cameos in it as It's a Mad World did, but it's from the same era. You're talking comedians from the 60s, 50s, 70s. So, Kate, I'm going to start with you. What was the best cameo in the movie?
So Steve Martin's up there. He's not my favorite. He is up there, but I also am a huge Steve Martin fan. I think Steve Martin is very funny. But my favorite was Bob Hope as the ice cream man. He came on. I am a huge Bob Hope fan. I used to watch the Bob Hope show when I was a kid. My mom and I would watch it together. He also, but here's what's wild is when he showed up, I couldn't figure out if it was Bob Hope or Gene Kelly because they looked very, very similar. You can judge me. I don't care.
We are judging you.
That's fine. But I sat there and I was like, is that Gene Kelly? Is that Bob Hope? Is that Gene Kelly? Is that Bob Hope? And I love both of them. And so it just, until I looked it up, I kept going, oh my gosh, who's the ice cream man? So Bob Hope as the ice cream man was my favorite. What about you, Pete?
So it's so hard because there's so many great cameos in this movie, but like this was prime Madeline Kahn, and she's only in about 30 seconds of this movie and just nails it. And like this was the time when she was in you know, the Mel Brooks movies like Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles, and just Clue wasn't too long after this actually. If you want to see a genius comedic performance,
it was 85. It was 85.
What?
Yeah.
Clue was 85. It was that far after this. Okay. Well, anyways, like this was right in Madeline Kahn's prime time. And like, I just love her so much. She could be so funny and so sexy at the same time. And I do have a second one, which I'll bring up if nobody else picks it, but that is mine that I just loved her. And in the same scene, Carol Kane showing up for Myth.
Yes.
So
And
Steve,
actually, Pete, that ties right into mine. Mine was Carol Kane. That entire thing, myth, cracked me up. And then when she appears again behind the billboard, it cracked me up even more because my other half, who I was watching with, totally missed it, and we had to back it up, and I had to explain why it was so funny. But I'd say with you, Madeline Kahn, that entire scene with Madeline Kahn, and was it Telly
Savalas was in it
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
and then Carol Kane just cracked me up. Just that play on words. That I also enjoyed the Steve Martin thing. I know he was being jerk, but just his attitude. I think it was maybe the day because I spent my day with sixth graders, and just the attitude he was giving cracks me up. So.
Very sixth grade attitude. Yes.
I do love. Would you like to smell the bottle cap?
Yes.
Yeah. For me, mine's almost not so much a cameo as a small supporting role. Can we talk about the genius of Mel Brooks in this one as the doctor?
That was actually my like secondary one. So yeah, for sure.
Him playing it, that was about as straight as you will ever see Mel Brooks play a part. Because you can tell he didn't do a lot of ad-libbing on that, because turning his brain to guacamole is about the one joke that he had. Can we give since I went last, I'm going to go first for one to choose a secondary one. How about Cloris Leachman as the secretary?
Yes.
Yeah.
Allergic to animal hair.
Yes, and chicken feather. Yes.
Yeah.
So, but the cameos in this are so great. This was the period of time when they would film them. They filmed the original Muppet Show over in England, and basically the performers would go over there and perform for free.
Oh.
So that they could be on the Muppet Show, because it was such great publicity.
Yeah.
And such great PR to be on the Muppet Show. And it was a good time. Every interview I've seen about their time on the Muppet Show was how much fun they had. So having this many cameo, a 30-second cameo that took 2 hours to shoot, I would be surprised if they paid much for any of those cameos. So, because realistically, that's one of those, none of those were parts, except for the Steve Martin one, none of those were really parts that could not have been played by any other Hollywood celebrity.
Right, for sure.
So, okay. I think we did this one partially when we did Muppet Christmas Carol, but if we did, I want to revisit it. And I'm going to start with you again on this one, Kate. Which Muppet do you most relate to?
So I misunderstood the question. I thought you meant in this movie, not in general.
Sure. In this movie works too.
In this movie, I relate to Gonzo. He's the weirdo. And it's Gonzo. I just loved this movie so much. I loved Animal. I loved the band. It's so good. But for me, it's Gonzo. And Gonzo sings that song. Gonzo's so misunderstood, and he gets judged for how he acts, which I completely understand, and all this stuff. And then he sings this song that I know Pete was like, it hits your heartstrings. Like, it makes you feel like I felt, oh my God, like I was sitting in tears, and I'm like, I am crying at an inanimate object. Like, that's happening.
Rainbow Connection is a wonderful, wonderful song, but like,
it doesn't.
I hope to go back there someday. Actually makes you cry.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Just thinking, like, literally, I just have goosebumps all on my arms.
Yeah.
So I've got to say Gonzo. What about you, Pete?
So I think I've mentioned this before. I don't know why, but I've always related to Rolf the dog. And I don't know why exactly, except that like maybe that's the attitude I want to be like, I want to be in my life, in that he's just kind of like there and just hanging out and just like, yeah, well, it's going going okay. Yeah, I'm doing good. You know, he's like in the car, but like he's not an important character really. And then he also doesn't understand women, which totally tracks with me. He sings the song about not being able to understand women, and like that's me too. So yeah, I'm
okay. But how many more women do we really need to understand, Pete? We've caught
Well,
our limit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand my wife though either. So
fair enough.
But no, I feel like, as I said, I feel like I can relate to Ralph because he doesn't really get too stressed. He just wants to play the music, and he just I wish I could be like Ralph is my feeling. So what about you, Steve? Who do you relate to?
Actually, I have 3. I had a hard time. So there's Gonzo, because like Kate, I'm weird. I march to my own little thing. And then there's Beaker, because I feel for Beaker. Like craziness is around him. But then probably if I had to really pick one, it'd probably be Scooter. The person who's working behind the scenes, doing everything, doesn't really get a lot of the recognition, but is always there. So I'm gonna go with Scooter. If I had to pick one, it would be Scooter.
I love that.
Okay.
And you got your job because of your uncle? Because
I wish.
Remember, initially Scooter got the job because
it's true.
His uncle owned the theater. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, I was tempted to say Kermit just because running the show and everything going crazy around me was good grief.
What are you talking about, Derek? Come on.
We picked up a weirdo.
Guys, I got to do Statler and Waldorf for me. Just my wife would totally agree with this. Of the side comments and the heckling without actually calling it out, but just the out of left field comments that it's one of those, they walk in, they get the joke, and then they leave type thing. I would have loved, yes, we saw them at the very beginning coming in to watch it. I would have loved them to like pop up a couple other times.
Yeah.
Pop up in
like driving by in a car or something like that.
Or like they're sitting on top, just have them like sitting on top of the billboard and make a comment. And they're there when Gonzo grabs the balloons and makes a comment. Just that type of a running thing with the Statler and Waldorf would have been great.
Yeah.
But guys, I think we're all great. This was a great movie. A lot of fun.
What was the joke that that Kermit made about Fozzie's car, his uncle's car? He was like, your uncle drives it's not a jalopy.
Studebaker.
God, this movie's funny. I'm sorry.
You realize that's the name of the car, right?
Yeah, that is a type of car.
But it's just like, who would think to make that into a joke? Like, your uncle drives
They're in his natural habitat.
Yeah, yes, that! Like, so good. Anyway, continue.
Right. Well, guys, as we always do, we rate these movies in cups of pixie dust out of 5. Kate, you're up. Muppet Movie 79, cups of pixie dust out of 5.
I'm giving it a 5.
Ow.
I don't have a lot negative to say about this. I enjoyed it. And when it was over, I was like, oh man. So I could go 4.5, but I don't think I can verbalize what I didn't like about it. So Pete, what about you?
I'm giving it a 4 because I do love it, but it's not something that I'd necessarily go back to over and over and over. I'm more going to do that with the actual Muppet Show, which I think there's certainly episodes of the Muppet Show that were funnier than this, so I have to leave a little bit of room. But it's a very solid, like, I could watch this every couple years. And as I said, like, if you have not watched this with your kids, what's wrong with you? This is one of the best Muppet movies for sure. And if you have not pulled this one up, please go do so. Steve?
Oh, I've been torn. I've been thinking about this all day. I'm between a 3.5 and a 4 and trying to decide which way to move.
4.
I'm gonna go with 4 because it made me laugh out loud multiple times when I watched it yesterday. So I'm gonna go with a 4.
And I'm going to go with a 4, guys. I love this. I love the Muppets. Yeah. So I was going to go with 3.5, but I would watch this over some of the stuff I've given 3.5s to. At least,
Can I
like,
change mine?
I guess
Can I change it to a 4.5?
you got to leave a little room for
Why?
improvement.
Why?
Yeah. Because it's not The Sandlot or Toy Story.
That's fair.
No, I don't
Okay.
know.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
It's not the
But
best
it's
movie.
so good. But it's
It's
good.
right, but you can't give everything a 5.
Yeah,
Right.
give it a 4.5. If I could do a 4.75, that would be ideal, but give it a 4.5.
Yeah. We
Fair.
early on, those of you following along, early on, we would do like whatever fractions we wanted to, and we decided no, we needed to go on the either the whole or the half numbers just
Yeah.
for simplification.
I would definitely give it a 4.68.
But you gave it a 4.
I'm just making up numbers.
Okay, Kate, what have we got? We got a couple short things for Disney Plus news. What have we got this week?
We do. Make sure I'm not muted. I am not muted. We do. If you use a Roku 4 to stream Disney Plus, that service will no longer be supported after May 30th. These devices were sold in 2015 to 2016. Do people use Rokus? Is that a thing?
Yes, people still use Rokus all the time.
My daughter has a Roku. Yes.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, good to know. And last but certainly not least,
there's 2 more.
There's 2 more. Spider-Man: Homecoming is debuting on the service this Friday.
We got to do that one.
We do, which I think.
How many of the others do I have to watch for it to make sense? Realistically,
Spider-Man: Homecoming, nothing.
Is that okay? Don't
Which
answer
one?
that.
Which one? Okay, which one was Homecoming?
So Homecoming was the first Tom Holland one.
Oh, the first one. Which is the
Okay.
one? Which is the movie that comes after Endgame?
No
Is
Way
that
Home.
Home.
No Way Home.
No Way Home.
Okay. Homecoming's great. Homecoming is funny. And then last but certainly not least, according to sources, Echo is still on track for a November or December premiere on Disney Plus.
And that is the Hawkeye follow-up. She was the manipulated, kind of bad guy, but kind of got really super manipulated by Kingpin in the Hawkeye series. She was the she is a deaf character.
Right.
So now part of the reason we did the Muppet movie this week is next week we've got Muppet Mayhem. And that is following the Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. And it's a new series about them. It's 10 episodes, about 30 minutes each.
Turns out for 30 years they've been around and one of the best bands in the business, but they've never recorded an album. So
now they're going to be recording an album.
This is the story of them recording an album. Yep.
So, and if you liked the cameos in this, from what I have seen, there are so many cameos in this series because the Muppets attract cameos. So
as they should.
So
how many episodes are we going to try to watch, Derek? Because I think they're releasing them all at once.
Well, I know what I would like to try and watch.
All of them?
I'd like to try and do all 10 of them. But
how long is each episode?
About 30 minutes.
About 30 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So tell you what, when they premiere, Pete and I can watch the first couple and see if it is bingeable or if it is not bingeable. If it's bingeable, we may try and go for the whole series. And
yeah, I would say try for at least 3 or 4, right? Probably
3 or 4. And Pete and I know Pete and I will watch the whole series in the next week. It'll happen. It'll happen.
Yeah.
And so we'll let you know if you need to watch, if we want you to if there's any you can skip.
Well, unless it's bad, we might not.
If it's bad, it's going to be a real short week next week.
Yeah.
So, guys, we do have some spots coming up in July that we don't have slotted in yet. Guys, if you have suggestions, please email us at plusplatoon@gmail.com. What would you like to see better on the show? What are we doing really well on the show? Does Kate really need to, just binge a whole bunch of old movies so she knows who Bob Hope is?
No, she knew Bob
I know
Hope.
who Bob Hope is. He just
She didn't know
called
who
me
anybody else was.
The Fly.
Sally.
Did you know who Mel Brooks was, though, Kate?
Of course I did.
Okay, good.
Okay. So, guys, if you have suggestions, shows you want to see us do, again, please email us plusplatoon@gmail.com. We have new episodes every Thursday on YouTube and all major podcasting services. For Kate, Pete, Steve, I'm Derek. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see everyone next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcasts and leave those 5-star reviews as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.